Hello everybody, it's Mike Levin. A couple days after I rebooted my Learn Linux series, something I'm doing all the time as I'm coming up with the best way to get people over this hump based on the state of things today, WSL space -- install. And 7 hours ago, viewer Lyra writes, "Hey, I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate your passion for teaching people Linux. I think one can really see your passion going into the lessons you give, and also they are free, which isn't normal in today's world. As a kid, I was always intrigued when my father typed something into this strange black window and suddenly cool stuff happened. And as part of becoming a software engineer, I now started to learn Linux terminal, etc. And it is still so cool, finally going to Oz myself. I used your guide to install the Linux terminal on my computer, and it is very fun. Just trying out stuff, discovering new ways to use commands, and slowly but surely learning how to navigate and use Linux. And even though I have access to paid courses about this topic, I keep coming back to your content and videos because I enjoy your enthusiasm about learning Linux and how you teach it. So yeah, I think what you do is really cool and inspiring. Thank you. Thank you. Lyra, yay. So, I mean, wow. In addition to that main message I'm trying to drill into people, Microsoft is giving this wonderful gift. They giveth and they taketh away, but the big give right now is WSL space -- install. It is some powerful magic. There's no more powerful magic fairy dust that you can sprinkle onto your Windows 11 PC right now than that command. It's a big one. It's like my unboxing of the Raspberry Pi. It's really that big. It's changing the world. So then that's part of it, to get that message out. Do it, and then get to Vim as soon as possible after you do that. The other part of the message is just this wonderful story of people that's behind it. People are like, oh, one technology is like the next. It's just not true. It's just not true. Take it from someone who's in a Jeep Wrangler, who comes from the cult of the Amiga as well. So I got wrapped up in these technologies and machines that inspire a kind of crazy loyalty. And I'm familiar with it. And I hate falling in love with the hardware because it always sets you up for heartbreak. Maybe less so with a Jeep Wrangler because you can get Jeep Wrangler lifetime insurance on it, and that's pretty cool. But there's no insurance on like making sure your know-how and technology doesn't go obsolete and you're suddenly, unhireable or whatever. There's no future-proofing assurance in technology. But Unix/Linux gets very close. And the reasons for it is because of the personalities behind it, starting with Fernando Corbato, who just couldn't stand that highfalutin, snooty types, had the ability to keep him from getting computer time. So he invented time sharing. And this time sharing technology, inevitably, even though it came up through MIT, got into the hands of big corporate America like General Electric and Honeywell and AT&T themselves, who planned on wringing the world for all the money they could for their computing cycles. Oh, you can timeshare, we can keep the computer centralized, you can only get in through terminals like VT100 terminals, and we can cha-ching, 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 and charge you. And so whereas Fernando Corbato panicked about one thing, just access to the computer at the same time as other people, and he scratched that itch, Ken Thompson scratched another itch, which is, oh my God, Multics has been corrupted by corporate America. Let's chop off it, and Multics becomes Unix. And Unix becomes more single user, still multi-user, but more oriented towards being kind of what was out at the time on home computers. If you could have the basic programming language as your main boot up language on like the Commodore PET, it seems like you could have things like that on these high-end computers. Why should they be left out of the fun? But instead of just some panicky, like, oh, we need an operating system so we can ship it for Christmas season like Commodore does, the Unix people, Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie, took their time saying, let's lift all the best computer science-y things from this Multics world. And you get these wonderful concepts of piping standard out from one program into standard in of another. Everything is a read-write file. There's a consistent path structure that can be reproduced at different points in the hierarchy. So one can be system space, one can be user space. And it's magical. It's really magical. It is different than other technologies. It was a equalizing, enabling, and ensured portability of software between systems, right? So it was different, but it became ivory tower, and it became the property of a few small companies like Novell. AT&T sold it, went to a networking company that you don't hear about much anymore, and then it went to a company called SCO, which was mostly about suing people. And, you know, underground movements started happening to black box re-engineer it, which became FreeBSD. But Linus Torvalds didn't know that was going on, and he's like, I need something for my x86 machine. Everyone has, you know, x86 hardware because IBM PCs and the business market have gotten this type of computer into everything and into everywhere. So I will write something that looks like Unix, but works on x86. The world is never the same. So Linus Torvalds wasn't quite a panic so much as it was a summer project, right? So, you know, anger with Fernando Corbato, panic with Ken Thompson, and hey, let's do something cool with Linus Torvalds. The excess coming from a place of abundance and being able to stand on the shoulders of several giants that came before him who worked out some of the big problems. And so, of course, his implementation was better. He didn't have to figure this stuff out for the first time. And I love this. This is my sports. This is my music. I hardly listen to music. I can't even comprehend sports. I don't think it's interesting. I don't think it's interesting compared to the real world. And all this stuff is playing out again. If you want to follow stuff that's just as interesting today, there is machine learning. I tried to do a dramatic light turn on. There is machine learning and the rise of general artificial intelligence. It's happening, you know. Deep learning beat Go, beat the masters of the Go game, which anyone who plays the game of Go, the Chinese black and white tile game, about surrounding other pieces and stuff, knows that there's an aspect to this which is kind of like creativity. Creativity, right on the edge of like autonomy. So the makings of a world that is as far beyond, you know, what, you know, the world was when, you know, there was no standardized operating system, right? By standardizing an operating system so that software could be written for an operating system, and then you only had to port the operating system, and then you could recompile the software for any of those. You know, the software didn't just port by itself. You still had to recompile it into kind of a machine code. But that was a fundamental, big enough step forward that the world was utterly and completely changed forever. And yeah, there you have it. That's the story I told the other day and the story I told again here in under 10 minutes. So thank you very much, Lyra Yay. That made my day. It was wonderful feedback, and I hope to hear from more of my users in the future. I will give you shout outs.